Uh, Alrighty, hopefully stuff is working. I was getting warnings about things saying it might be buffering, but I don't know if that's the case at the moment. Hopefully not. It would be annoying if there's random issues like that. Do you see it buffering? Crap. What does that mean? Eesh, this is annoying. Boy. Bitrate and audio things and complicated stuff. Might need to restart it quick. Cybershark, hello, hello. I don't know if it's... Oh, that text is weird. If it's buffering for you. I'm getting weird warnings. Live stream. I just felt like it. Nothing else to do today, so might as well chill a bit. That text color is really bad. How can I change that? Where's... Hello? Oh, there's the color. It's fine for you. Okay. Thanks. Just let me know if it gets bad. And I'll have to like restart the stream with different settings or something. But hopefully not. Hopefully we'll see. Yay. So, also, I don't know if there's somewhere I can find nice music to listen to in the background that's like relaxed music. Let's see. Okay, hopefully this is alright. I don't know if it's gonna be too loud or what. Okay, so, yes, how is everyone? Hope the weekend is going well. Me, I'm pretty much just chilling and I guess getting my soul ready for work tomorrow and the normal things. What else can you do? And in South Africa, we of course have the lovely problem of lack of electricity supply, so we have schedules for when our electricity is going to be out for like 2.5 hours at a time, which is fun. So I think my next one was at 6 p.m. Yeah, so tomorrow I have no power from 6 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. It's gonna be great. Monday is 4 hours away. Sorry to hear. For me, it's 10 to 5 p.m. So I got a bit of time left. So what I wanted to do... Well, I've been wanting to get back into making more videos. I've just been distracted with other things. Like, I've been streaming on Twitch a bit, some games. But I wanted to try and do some coding videos, because I really enjoy doing Android stuff and making content, so hopefully I can come up with some good stuff to do. Exactly. How do I move this around a bit? Yeah, that's, I guess, the one positive thing is the fact that they tell you. So there's a whole big schedule for all the different areas, obviously, and yeah, you can at least plan your life around that, which is, I guess, half decent. Twitch. If you really want to see it, but I don't. Yeah, I just do it for fun, I guess. I mostly do some Dota 2, because that's mostly what I play in my free time. But I don't stream like every day. So anyway, today I wanted to do some Dagger Hilt stuff, because it recently became marked as stable. Almost at 25 followers. Yeah, I know. I'm not gonna make it like a full-time thing, of course, or anything like that. It's just fun to interact with people, I find. So yes, I wanted to do some Dagger Hilt stuff. Again, it's just fairly recently became stable, and we started using it at work, which was a big step, because I work at a bank, so we try to use only stuff that is marked as stable, and we finally added support for it, and along with that, I kind of felt like just doing a video on it. I already did a Hilt one, but that was basically comparing it to the previous Dagger 2, you know, how it makes it easier. But I thought it might be nice to just explain the basics. You know, if you're new to Dagger maybe and Hilt, just explain the basics, like what does each thing mean and when should you use it, that kind of thing. Because I feel it is very, very valuable to understand the code you write. I see it quite often, you know, people just write stuff because they've seen it somewhere else, and without understanding what it's doing. Like, I truly believe that every single line you write, you should know what it is doing. Not necessarily down super low level, like what exactly everything happens, but, you know, fairly high level understanding, so you don't have weird behavior or any other stuff that you just add for fun. I'm not exposing, I'm just spewing my thoughts. They may be wrong, so feel free to disagree. But anywho, so I wanted to just prepare a video that explains in a fairly easy way, you know, what each of the Dagger components or elements are, like all the annotations and modules and injecting and all of that stuff. And this is going to be from a purely Hilt point of view, so not looking at the old way, just the new way. How do we do things, and when should you use what? So let me just find the docs here. And there's a lot of magic that goes on in Hilt. They use bytecode transformations when you're building. I have not looked at that, and I think that is way too advanced, but it is interesting to know how they do it, using the Gradle APIs to magically change your code when it's being built. Okay. Hilt. Oh, that doesn't play very well with the chat overlay, but bear with me. So, yeah, if you guys have anything you think I should include in the video, please just let me know. Be happy to try and figure out what's going on. So where should we start? I think the first thing is to explain basically how to set it up in the project. Pandora's box, exactly. Exactly, it's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes. Which, fair enough, you don't need to know all of it. But I think it's good to understand basics, like it generates code for you. So, I already started making a few notes previously. This is annoying. Jeez, it's the lowest I can change the volume. Okay, keep getting distracted. So for the setup, we just add a few Gradle lines. Which, I mean, that's kind of alright. Where's the class path? Yeah, so we start in the top level one, adding this class path 1, and then with Kotlin, of course, we add a few dependencies. Pretty much these two are the important ones. I haven't myself used any of the Hilt testing utilities, so I can't really comment on that. I think you're supposed to use it when you're doing like espresso tests, that kind of stuff. Oh, they have one for local unit tests as well. I'm not really sure what that one's for. Because in my tests, you don't... In my tests, I don't normally have Dagger involved at all. I just, use mock dependencies and things. So I don't really think the test one will be that critical. But anywho. So you add... class path dependencies. Ah, yes, and you apply the plugin. Where... Yeah, this thing. Apply the plugin in the build script, add dependencies. Sorted. Everything these days is just adding dependencies for all these new libraries. And then they have a section on why should you use the plugin. Buffering warnings, damn it. But I'm not really gonna bother too much about that. I think pretty much everyone will use the Gradle plugin. I guess if you still build with Maven or some other random thing, you might need to read this, but ugh. In 2021, really. Local test configuration. When you use less than AGP 4.2, the Hilt plugin by default only transform instrumented tests. Okay, that's more test stuff. Okay, whatever. I don't know if all the rest of the stuff is that important, for at least for the video I want to do, so... Quick start. Okay, yeah, so the first real code thing you do is just making your application class, oh boy. Make the application class annotate with Android, Hilt Android app. My words have been lost. Obviously you'll need to make this class if you don't already have it and register it in manifest. But that's all. Like, you just annotate the application with Hilt Android app, and previously you had to do so much other stuff like dispatching Android injectors and all of that stuff, but now you just annotate the class and you're pretty much done. So nice. Very nice, very nice. Wait, what? Okay, yeah, this is the old version. I was gonna say there's no components. Well, there's no manual component in the Hilt anymore. So inside the application, if you wanted to inject something, you would just add an inject field, and then that's all. You can just access it after on create. Like, it's so very nice. Did I? Yeah, here we go. So this is the. Hey, why is it not resolved? So this project is the one I used for my previous video. I'm probably not going to be changing any code things here. I'm just going to be looking around a bit and, yeah, going through the Hilt code to help. Okay, there we go. Just making sure it still builds. It's been a while. I wonder if I can find this actually on GitHub and put a link somewhere in case you're interested. I think it's this one. Yeah. Anyway, so that is what I'm currently looking at here in my editor. So to set up, you'll just annotate the application class, Hilt Android app, and then you're pretty much all set up to just get going, which is pretty awesome. Fast build. I guess it's a small project. Yeah, it's a small project, and my PC, I recently upgraded it, so maybe that helps. Okay. So for video purposes, I don't think there's too much to explain around this. It's just you annotate it to just to add Hilt support, I guess. So I'm just going to be writing a few points and like explaining underneath, and then I'll use that as like a rough script for my video. I pretty much script all of it because I'm scared to forget stuff. I tend to like get so focused on certain things and then forget other stuff I want to mention, so I I tend to write down a few points, not a full-on word-for-word script, but just important points I want to remember. These warnings aren't going away, it's worrying me. And I do see it buffering in my preview every now and then. It's annoying. Okay, so and doing that. And once you're done with that, then you're pretty much good to go and start injecting stuff. So I don't know if it's good to start explaining like injecting first or providing first. I guess I can figure that out later, but so for providing stuff, you'll obviously just write a module and make it a module. And then with Hilt, all modules need to have install in, so the build will theoretically fail now if I don't put it. Yeah. It's missing install in annotation. Cool. So in there we need to put the components, singleton. Most times we'll probably use singleton component, unless you have some super advanced stuff. I wish this was named a bit differently, I don't know. But it tends to like confuse people because they think now everything in here is going to be a singleton, but that's not the case. It's just because that component, there's only one of it through the whole life of the app. So it's just a bit of a, I don't know, naming thing. It used to be called application components, and then they removed, or they renamed it. But I guess they had their reasons. So a module is modules are used to tell Dagger how to create dependencies. Hello? I don't know if it's any better now. Shut up, music. Selling in the bitrate is low now. Oh my gosh. Oh wait, it says it's healthy? Okay, sorry, I was just testing that. Sorry, there's been a lot of issues in South Africa and streaming. Like, I couldn't stream to Twitch at all. I have to use some relay server. So I think it's similar stuff on YouTube. Nope, it's buffering again. Even though I'm not getting any drop frames. Is it alright now? Is it alright? I hate hearing myself. Even though I've been editing videos for years, I just never get used to it. Okay, sorry about that. Hopefully it stays a bit stable now. Very frustrating. Cool. Thanks, Cybershark. Just shout if it breaks again. Okay. I'm not even being able to do what I want here. Okay, so a singleton component. Lasts for the whole life of the app, and that's the thing of a module. So need to install into a component. Now, the one thing I've had issues with is trying to figure out how to explain a component. Like a Dagger, like the singleton component. Like, what is a component? And I think I saw it, an explanation somewhere here. Components. Never define components, instead they have pre-built ones. Pre-built components that are automatically integrated into the various life cycles of an Android app. The annotation, blah blah blah. So a component, it's... The dark theme is messing with this diagram a bit. Sorry for the blinding light. But the weekend would be happy. So you have all these various like component things, and then you have the singleton one, which is top level, and then all of these other ones extended. You have activity retained, activity, fragment, view. Yes. I saw... Yes, yeah, so component life cycle or lifetimes. The lifetime of the component is important. It relates to the lifetime of your bindings. It bounds the lifetime of scoped bindings, blah blah blah. I saw burning, yeah, sorry about that. I use this plugin for Chrome, Dark Reader. Automatically makes everything dark theme, but sometimes it's a little bit dodgy. But it does a good job normally. I must have been on the main Dagger docs that they mentioned it. Yes, yeah. So you have a dependency graph, which links all of the stuff. It links the inject and provides classes to form a graph. Buffered for a bit. That's strange. I'm not seeing any issues on my side, but okay. That's life. Yeah, so then in the application, you'll access that dependency graph via a well-defined set of roots in Dagger 2. That set is defined by an interface, by a component. So it's basically, the component is like exposing the entry points of a graph. Basically, exposing dependencies that you can inject. Okay, anyway. So in a module, you tell Dagger how to create dependencies, and by doing that you create bindings. I think it's important to my brain to raise this concept of bindings in Dagger, because it's mentioned in a few places, so need to tell people that it's a binding, like when you have a provides method. And then doing compose things now, just getting a bit ahead of ourselves. So by doing that, we create a binding for a string, a binding of string. A getter for a node. Yes, pretty much. That's my understanding of it. To be honest, I'm myself fuzzy on like what a component. Like I can kind of visualize it in my head, but I don't know how to put it into words, you know, on paper. It's one of those strange things. And I find that most of the time you'll probably use singleton component. Maybe you'll use like activity or view model ones or fragment, but most of the time just a singleton. So component. I guess I can switch back to dark theme. I don't know if that's a good way to say it. A component provides access to bindings. Helium proton. Helium? Am I blind? No. How to design wonderful UIs in Android Studio. It's a tough one. Normally the graphics designers tell me what they want the app to look like, and then you just do it. I don't know how to make stuff beautiful myself. It's a tricky one. Component provides access to bindings, and they are tied to Oh, thank you. Well, are you like what apps are you referring to? Are you referring to the demo, like my demo project? I pretty much just use standard components, and I don't do fancy stuff. Like the material components. They also specify or restrict limit. The components, if you install a module, jeez, so many words. If you install a module into like view model component, then those bindings in that module won't be available to like the singleton component. If I'm doing something like this, great names, I know. So if I'm providing a string in the view model component, then that means here if I wanted to provide something else and use that as a dependency, whatever, this will not build, right? Wait, what? Maybe because that's not used anywhere. Let me try. wanted to... Oh, you can't have... Oh, that's a fail. Yeah, okay, there we go. So even though... Whoa, what is happening? Even though I am, in fact, providing a string, because I'm installing it in the view model component, that string will only be available within view models, not inside like the application here. I don't know, I feel like I need diagrams or something to visualize components. Like... I was on the Hilt page here. Like, this thing is kind of okay. Because you can kind of get that, like the view model component, or this one, the view model component, will inherit the bindings from, you know, whatever is above it, but not the other way around. So since it's below the singleton one, you can use any bindings that are in the singleton component, but the singleton can't use ones that are in view model component. Trying to find a way to explain this is... Yeah. But I suppose that, yeah, it is good to maybe include this graph or this diagram in the video itself. I don't know, I can think of another way, maybe of another graph to draw it, but hopefully it helps. Yes, exactly. Yeah, the children, like view model component, inherits all the bindings from the activity retained and singleton, but obviously not the other way around. Yeah, that is a decent way of explaining it. And like one of the important reasons, I guess, is if you wanted to... Let's just take stuff out again. So stuff in the singleton component, you can get access to the application context. Like that. Sorry. So you could... Right, you can use the application context to instantiate your dependency or whatever. And similarly, for like the activity one, you'll have access to the actual activity itself. I think. Right. It tells you where there was another nice diagram I saw where it tells you what's available in... Am I just blind? Huh? Yes, okay, geez, here it is, I'm blind. So this is also quite a useful diagram. It tells you what you can inject in each of the components. Interestingly, the view model component doesn't have access to the application, really? And of course the activity retained one doesn't have access to the activity because it lives across activity configuration changes, like if you rotate the device. So the component will be the same, but it'll be a different activity instance, so you won't have access to it. but the normal activity one does, because you'll get a new component like if you rotate the device. And jeepers. I'm also quite impressed that you can now inject stuff into views. Seems a bit crazy and maybe will encourage bad behavior. Like, I don't know how often you should be injecting stuff into views. I guess depends what the dependency is itself. But I wouldn't inject like repos or something into a view because views are supposed to be dumb. You're supposed to have like just getters and setters. But I guess it is a nice to have. So now if I were to change this to activity... Oh. To the activity retained one, this will fail, right? Or not, because I guess this binding isn't used, so it just like carries on happily. But now say I wanted to inject that string. It was a string, right? No, it should fail. Yes, thank goodness. Sometimes I think I know what I'm saying, and then something happens, and I'm like, oh no. Everything I know is wrong. Yeah, so the activity cannot be provided because it's not accessible in the activity retained component. But if I do that, then it should build fine. Yeah, nice. And then in here you could use that activity to do whatever. Like if you have lovely view interfaces, you could cast it to your view interface or whatever. The lovely anti-patterns. Okay, I keep forgetting what I'm doing. Oh yeah, components. Inherit parent bindings, like... I don't need to put an example. So modules are used to tell Dagger how to create various dependencies. When you add a provides or a binds method, it will create a binding in Dagger. And you also need to install modules into a component. Now, a component is just something that will provide access to these bindings that you have defined. And there are various components that are tied to the lifecycle of Android components. Like the singleton one is tied to the whole lifecycle of the application, and there's also ones for activities and fragments and view models. Now components will pretty much just limit the bindings to when they are, limit the availability of bindings. And important thing to note is child components will inherit the parent's binding. So like the view model one will inherit the bindings from singleton and things like that. So they'll be available still. Okay. So you annotate a class with a module and then blah, blah, blah. Need to use install in. Create provides binds. In the module, you'll add provides or binds methods, which will create bindings. Any reason for using interface companion object? Because I was thinking I'll probably want to add an abstract method up here, you know. But no, if this was the whole module, I would just change it to an object. Right, if I had no other functions inside, if I had only static stuff. Okay. Hopefully the quality is still alright. Oh geez, the light theme messes up the chat overlay so badly. Whoops. But I'm not seeing any dropped frames on my side, so it must be an issue with my ISP or with YouTube servers, I don't know. I do not know anymore. Binds, I love binds methods. They make it so much easier and cleaner. Okay, so that's modules, I think. I don't know if there's anything else I should mention on modules. Install it somewhere, and then you add methods to it. Maybe I should briefly explain binds versus provide. What is this? What word is that? Why do I keep typing that? Provises. You bind an implementation. You just return the binds method, you just say, I'm binding this implementation to that interface. So if anyone wants to inject that interface, go and instantiate the implementation for them. And for that you need to and then you need to add an inject constructor to the implementation so that it knows which, or it just knows how to instantiate that object. And provides method, you add a concrete thing and you just basically return the dependency however you see fit. I prefer to use binds myself generally, but provides can be nice if it's like third-party classes you want to return. Obviously, then you can't go and add inject constructor if you don't control the code. So then you need a provides method. Anyway, maybe I can split this up and talk about those at a later point, but I'm just trying to get everything down for now. Okay, so... Oh yeah, and they can have... It's quite useful, you can obviously add parameters to the provides methods, and then you can... It will inject, you know, other... It will provide bindings that Dagger already knows about, which would just be the same for an inject constructor. Anyway. Cool. Yeah, so I might end up moving this section, like, over here. I don't know yet. So, how to provide dependencies? Well, you can inject, have an @inject constructor, Inject Constructor tells Dagger, hey, please use this one when you need to create the class. And you can, of course, add Constructor Parameters, but then they also need to be provided by Dagger so that it knows how to fully create that object. Man, I need some proper demo code here. Yes, this repo thing that I apparently wrote. Wait, what? Am I blind? There's no module for this? Oh, wait, what? Okay. That naming... this file is named app component, but the thing isn't a module. That confused me. Yeah, so this is pretty much the style that I like to do. Is you try and keep the Dagger code like as minimal as possible. Typically you'll have like a repository or whatever, and you'll have an interface for it, because it's good to program against interfaces. And you'll want to obviously inject this interface places. View model, let me just extract that actually. So you can see in the view model, I inject the repo interface. And obviously you have an implementation, and we have an inject constructor. And yeah, but anyway, importantly, there's the binds method, which says when someone wants the repository interface, go and give them this implementation. And then that implementation, we just need to have an inject constructor to tell Dagger to use this constructor. Then when the view model is created, we will actually get an a implementation instance here. Cool. I want to move this here, I think. So then... So here I was just wanting to outline the various ways that you can provide a dependency. Simplest way, I think, is just to annotate a constructor with inject, like if there's no interface, basically. Like if you just had... Right, this class, there's no interface, you just have some methods. So here to make this, or to add a Dagger binding, you would just say inject constructor. You don't need to add anything in the Dagger module, and then you can just go ahead and add that thing. My fancy class like that. And this will build fine. Or not. Oh wait, I forgot to take out that other broken stuff. Whoops. Yeah, there we go. So that, in my opinion, is the easiest way to create a Dagger binding, is just have an inject constructor. Trying to figure a way to format this nicely. An inject constructor tells Dagger which constructor to use, and yeah, the parameters must be valid bindings, which kind of makes sense. So inside here, I could say I want to add a repo instance. This should build fine, because we've already told Dagger how to provide this repo, so it is all good. All good, we can add it there. So I think provides is a bit more simpler. So the next easiest way to create a binding is to create a provides method inside a module. I removed it, whoops. Anyway. So say I wanted to, I don't know what's a third party thing. I don't really care. So say if this class if that was a class obviously in another library out of control, we can't change it to add a constructor, so we would have to write a provides method that then returns that thing, which is fine. And then you can just say return, you know, a new instance of it. And I could then go and add that to the view model, just so that it's actually used. Then we'll be able to build that fine. I love how they've added Dagger support like in the actual IDE. So you can like, oh, the text covers stuff a bit. You can, why is my cursor black on the thing? That's weird. Anyway, they added stuff in the margins so you can see like, oh cool, this is a binding, where is it actually used? And it'll take you to all the usages of it, and you can again click on here and it will take you to where that binding is defined, which is really awesome. I like it a lot. And of course, you could add parameters to provides methods. Say you needed application context. If you needed application context to create that third-party thing, then you can actually do that without a problem. And I believe you can actually change this to a context if you say app. Yeah, like that. Nice. So you can have parameters. Same rule as on the inject constructors. And yeah, it's good to use those for third-party classes. And finally, the binds method. Probably my favorite way. So a binds method, it's an abstract thing where you bind the implementation to the interface. is requested. So many words. So when you inject, when you request that interface to be injected, it will create the implementation for you. And you just need to have an inject constructor on the implementation. In the implementation class. And again, it can have parameters because it's kind of the same thing as the previous one. Let's see. Cool. I think those are the ways to provide dependencies. I don't know if I'm missing any, but that's what I've used so far. Can I somehow fold all of that to make it a bit easier to read? Next up, for injecting dependencies, it's pretty straightforward. I've already covered it from the previous section mostly, but you can add constructor parameters like we did on the view model. I think for Dagger, the recommended thing is to do constructor injection whenever possible. It just makes it a lot neater. Obviously on things like activities, you can't have constructor parameters because the system is instantiating them. So for activities, you would need to have fields. Whoa, what did I just write? Yeah, for all, not activities, but Android components, activities, fragments, services, that kind of thing. You have to have fields for all of them. And then Dagger will go and set those fields in on create. So I think those are the two recommended ways for that Dagger world. I think you can also have setters, actually. I think you can do that, right? Can you? Geez, so much stuff. Oh geez, and then there's multi-bindings even. I don't know if I should cover that or not. And assisted injection. What? I'm sure I'm not making that up. I want to actually see if that works. I don't know if you can do it in... in a view model. Maybe you can. So it worked, but... oh, it does. There we go. Inject, inject. Interesting. Yes, yes, thank you. So... So the Android components, like activities, fragments, views, services, whatever. View models as well, of course. Thank you. I'm getting so carried away on this random setters thing, but I really want to know if it works. Okay. Oh, there you go. Nice. Okay. This log tag is a bit unreadable. How do you edit the whatever? Oh, it's that one. So it called that setter magically. I love magic. Okay. I don't know, maybe it's worth mentioning setter injection. But it's not really the preferred method on Android. Okay, so for Android components, as you mentioned, we need to have Android entry point. And this is a... What's the word I'm thinking of? It's a... Oh, man, not trickles, but it... Like domino? I don't know what I'm thinking of, but... If you add it to a fragment, then you need to add it to the activity that the fragment is in. And if you add it to a view, then the fragment and then the activity needs to also have Android entry point. Cascading, I think that's what I was looking for. I don't know if this is anything sensical, but I like to mention it. Yeah. And I guess, likewise, if you put it on an activity, then the application itself must be a Hilt Android app, but I feel like that's kind of not really worth mentioning, because you should have set it up already. But then, the... Oh, I love it so much how little code you need now. What is showing us changed here? Alright, I extracted the view model, but before, like, you would have to inject a view model factory as well, and then pass the view model factory in here. Like factory over there. Inject it, there's a whole other field, and then you have to say, like, Android injection, which doesn't exist anymore in Hilt. And you have to say that, and if you forget that, then like, you get null pointers because nothing is injected. And then, like, the solution we used at work was borrowed from Google sample, I think, where if you implement an interface, then this will automatically be called for you in, like, the lifecycle callbacks or whatever. Such a mess. But now all of that is just gone. So much better. Today I learned inject setters exist. No, I've never actually used them anywhere. Like in actual code. Just to test it out only. Everything is Android entry point. Yeah. Whenever you open an activity, just Android entry point. And it's so weird. Let me just build it. But you'll see that... Right, so I've got Android entry point on my main activity, and then there's like this magical other class that gets generated, a Hilt main activity. And you can see here it says, if you use the Gradle plugin, then this class is swapped as the base class via bytecode transformation. So when you're running the app, this thing's base class changes to Hilt main activity. So it's so strange, man. So fancy. Maybe I should try bytecode transformations at some point. Haven't messed with it yet. And it's awesome that, yeah, again, you don't need a view model factory here, that it's now built into whatever the default factory is. Oh, it's so good. Okay, so for injecting dependencies, the preferred method is to use constructor injection. Properties, the Kotlin naming. So for Android components, we have to use inject properties. Oops. Because the system actually use up all of those things and controls the lifecycle. Setter exists, but don't use it. Just constructor injection, why not? I guess if you have some like super legacy class that you're very scared to change, one of those classes that's 2,000 lines long with all of the shit inside of it, and you want to add like one new function to it, then maybe setter injection will work, but I don't know. I would say try to use one of the other two methods instead. Crazy how less code you need if you have a single activity app. Yes, exactly. It's very nice looking at this, and the additional setup that was required in the application class was insane, and no one understood what it was doing. Like, you'd have to have a field that was a dispatching Android injector, and it's just, no, Hilt is so much better. And I get that people, it's either like you love Dagger or you hate it. Quite a few people I talk to are like, oh no, Coin is best. Coin is so easy. But I think I'm a Dagger fanboy. I've been using it for years. I like the fact that it's compile time, a lot of it. So you get that added level of safety. And no runtime reflection shit, which is a bit slower and more error prone. I just like it a lot. And the fact that like Google officially endorses it is also pretty good. They add all the support in the IDE, right, as we showed earlier, the gutter icons and all of that. Very nice. What am I doing? That one. Yes, the compile time checking is really useful. Although it's obviously not completely foolproof, because if you use multi-bindings, for example, or like in this case, if I were to forget Android entry point, it's still going to build fine. But it's going to crash when you go to that screen because the view model doesn't have an no-arg constructor. Or it doesn't crash? Oh, there we go. Okay, it took a while to run. But yes, and it will say that... Oh no, because it's a... Wait. Okay, apparently I have a custom view that that has Android entry point on it. But anyway, yeah, it's not 100% foolproof, the compile time stuff, but it does help a lot. Especially at work, we have a whole lot of teams who all work on like completely separate modules, but they get pulled into the same app. So it's kind of useful to see that if a team breaks something, that then you can actually see it's broken, so they'll fix it sooner than finding it at runtime. Okay, what am I doing? I just wondering what else I've wanted to mention. For Android components, we need to use Android entry point. Makes the... That's a very simplified version. Is why do you need to use Android entry point? Because it makes it ejectable. Generates a lot of code behind the scenes, just to end up making it injectable. The errors are a bit vague. Yes, yeah, I have noticed that as well. The errors are a bit dodgy sometimes. You have to like dig through the logs. It confuses a lot of people at work because they sometimes don't find the actual error, and it confuses them. They spend time looking at the wrong stuff. So from that point of view, it is a bit annoying. And as you say, also the annotations, obviously it makes compile time a bit slower. So there are the trade-offs. I guess it depends on your preferences. At this point, our app is so slow to build, it doesn't really matter. We have so many libraries and stuff. Oh, my word. Cool. Just gonna take a quick 1-minute break. Quick bathroom break, and then I'll come back and read through this and see if there's anything else I've forgotten. Because I want to pretty much explain any Dagger or Hilt thing you see in the code. I want to have an explanation for it. So maybe I think I need to mention the view model stuff a bit more, maybe. But we'll see. I will be right back. Let it build, go to sleep, and wake up to a compile time error, pretty much. Or more realistically, press build and go make coffee, come back, and then yeah, something has failed. Just like what one that happens to me so often is not adding the activity to the manifest. I'm pretty sure that's been a thing since like Android 1, before my time, and I sometimes still forget to add it to the manifest. All that build time, all that run time trying to click to the screen, and then it just crashes. So stupid. Okay. I don't know if I need a separate section for Android components. Might be a good idea. The internet permission as well, exactly. Why does it crash? I'm just doing a simple service call. How can it crash? Whoops. Forgot to add permission. Oh yes, that's probably a good feature to use. Yeah, the new activity thing. What's also nice is alt entering on it. If I were to delete the manifest entry, you can alt enter and say add to manifest. It's also pretty useful. Okay. So for Android components, like activities, fragments, views, services, I don't know what else is supported. Wait, where have we gone now? Broadcast. Who uses a broadcast receiver in 2021? Hey. Sadly, we still have many in our old code, but I'm too scared to remove it because I don't know what they do, what side effects there might be. So, annotate them with Android entry point. Makes the class injectable by Dagger. And a cascading effect if you do it on a fragment and do it on the activity as well. For view models, annotate with Hilt view model. Not much else to say for view models, I think. Then you just add a normal inject constructor on it. Today I learned that exists, the alt enter thing. Yeah, you'd be surprised by how many problems you can just alt enter and they'll disappear. Like, another one of my favorites is making stuff into a data binding layout, where I think you have to click on the top line and you say alt enter. Wait, what? I guess I don't have data binding enabled on my project. But if you alt enter at the top line, it'll say convert to data binding layout, and then it just wraps it all in the layout tag, which is pretty useful, saving a lot of time. Separate setup for work manager. I think I've seen that somewhere as well. To be honest, I've not used work manager myself, really. I haven't had a need for it. At work, we don't do much or any like deferrable background work. It's all services that must happen now. So I haven't had the need, but I would imagine it is. Work managers, yeah, strange life cycles. Sure, and then the whole other story is for compose and like injecting stuff into compose functions or whatever. That must be a whole other mission, which I haven't really looked at either. I'm probably one of the only Android devs in the world who hasn't done much compose. I know you're gonna lift up your pitchforks and riot, but I'm mostly waiting for it to be stable. I don't know, like I want to sort of get into it when it's properly stable and available, so that I can actually use it at work. And also, you know, obviously I would like to make videos, but it's also, I feel like it's so almost saturated with content at the moment for compose. I don't know, maybe I'm just making all this stuff up. But I definitely will do compose stuff at some point. I just have not done much of it myself. I've of course done the basics, like, oh, let me write a composable hello world function and remember some data. And that's about all. I've not done any production code. Does compose need hilt? Oh wait, I've never tried or used data binding. Data binding, yeah, it's one of those that can be abused quite easily. Like you can end up putting logic in the XML files, which is super weird. But I really like it if you have, for example, a form which has a few text input fields. It's quite nice because then you can just bind a field in the view model to the text input. And then from the view model, you can read that field directly. Like you would have something like, you can make it a live data even, actually. Whoops. And then in the XML, you can reference this field, bind to this field, and then when you need that data, you can obviously just read that field and submit that to the service or whatever. So data binding, I do like it in the right cases. Obviously, just try not to abuse it. Oh, you learned Flutter. Nice. I've not done much Flutter either. I've just been native Android for like 6+ years at this point. Oh my gosh. Back on the compose hilt. Don't you need to inject a view model? Or maybe I'm not thinking of it correctly, because again, I've not done it that much. But I seem to remember seeing some stuff or some tweets about injecting a view model into compose functions. I don't know. I can't say for sure. But we'll get there when we get there, I suppose. Hilt view model. So this is when they must extend the view model class for it to work. Then you just add constructor parameters, and we're cool. View model is sorted, and then to inject it, you can use the nice Kotlin feature. Use by view models, and you don't need a factory anymore, which is really nice. And maybe I should again collapse that. I'm just trying to think if there's anything else. I should probably mention the Java thing, because I get people complaining that I don't mention Java stuff, believe it or not. It should be this lovely thing. New view model provider, this... And you wouldn't need a factory anymore, at least. It's a hot topic. I guess that's also why I'm waiting, so that all of this stuff can settle a bit and they can decide on sort of a recommended approach that I can follow. I don't want to go and write a whole thing and then it's suddenly deprecated. Okay, so let me just see if I've missed anything. First up was the Gradle Setup, which I think is pretty alright. Dependencies and plugins like normal. Nice, that's now a little foldable thing. So then to set up the application... Yeah, true, exactly. That's a good point. View models became famous. Yes, that's true. And compose, yeah, it just calls the function that needs to recompose. Doesn't redo the whole world. Now it's going to be interesting to see the direction they go with it. And to see what the recommended approaches are. It was a bit weird to get used to the checkbox, because it doesn't keep its own state anymore, right? You have to keep the state. So by default, you click on the checkbox, nothing happens. And you have to sort of make a variable for it. Okay, the application class. Just annotate with Android app. I know this is too much required to use Hilt features. Okay, then from there, we talk about how to provide dependencies, like looking at the modules. So a module... too much of a newbie to go around writing custom navigation, DI, or architecture frameworks. Yeah. Also, navigation is another topic. Like, I've seen them talk about a whole lot of complicated stuff for using navigation component with compose, and it's like, oh my gosh, there's so much stuff going on now. Sometimes it feels a bit overboard, like, just start a new activity, you know, don't have a lot of weird, complicated navigation stuff, but again, they all have their needs, and they'll be necessary in their own use cases. Okay, so a module, obviously annotated with module, and you use it to tell Dagger how to create dependencies, or how to satisfy. Is that a good word? How to satisfy dependencies. You add provides and binds methods. Maybe I can leave that out actually. You add methods to the module which will create bindings as they are known. And you install it into a component. Doing the network call on every recomposition, jeepers. I think I tried something like that, did I? Tried to load an image in Compose and it just didn't work. I don't know what I did wrong. But now all these other fancy libraries, Glide, Picasso, whatever, gonna have to add Compose support. Okay, then you have to install module into a component using install in. I don't know if I should explain components before modules. Anyway, a component will provide access to the bindings that you created. They are generally... Whoa, what just happened? Oh shit, sorry. How do I undo that? I'm sorry, I don't know how to untime me out. No, stop it. Can you type now? I'm sorry, that I need to change that setting on the bot, maybe. Your message was too long, apparently. Spam filters, paragraph protection. But you can't untime out someone? Are you serious? What is that? That's BS. I added you as a moderator. Can you still not even type? What? What is this YouTube thing, man? Oh, shit. What? What? How is in no way? What? My mind is blown. What? Dude, how can you not untime out someone on YouTube? How is that a thing? Apparently you have a 5-minute timeout. What? I'm so sorry, I don't know. I literally googled and it says there's no way to remove a timeout. Hey. I think there's only about 2 minutes left, but I feel so bad. So components, there are like and they limit when the bindings are available. Child components inherit parent bindings. And then providing dependencies. There are 3 ways you can add an inject constructor on a class. Tells Dagger which constructor to use when it must instantiate it. And you can have parameters on the constructor, but they must all be provided by Dagger as well. Then you can add a provides method, it's a concrete method, and you must manually instantiate and return the dependency. Again, this can have parameters which are provided by Dagger, and this is good for third-party classes that you need to provide. And binds methods are similar to provides, I guess, except that they don't have an implementation. You can use them to bind implementation to an interface so that you can inject interfaces in places. Then when that interface is requested, it will create the implementation. And you need to add an inject constructor on the implementation. Cool. Then for the injecting, you're back. Sorry about that. That's unfortunate. What happened was, it is actually my fault. The bot timed you out for 30 seconds, and then I accidentally timed you out for 5 minutes. Because I was clicking through the button that says timeout, and I clicked on it hoping it would give me more options for timeout, like to remove it. But it didn't. It just puts you in a fixed 5-minute timeout, which is really stupid, so I'm sorry. Anyway, injecting dependencies. The preferred method is to use constructor injection, because then you can have like private immutable properties. But for Android components, that's not possible, so you need to have inject properties. And setter injection is a thing. I don't even want to mention it just feels like a waste of breath. And I don't know if there's anything I'm not touching on so far. Module, install in, components, bind, provide, jeepers. There's then qualifiers and multi-bindings, scopes. Jeepers. It's going to turn out to be quite a long video, but maybe I will have to break it up. But for the absolute basics, you don't need to know these last 3 things. But they are quite important, though. So inject properties. Then for Android components, like activities, fragments, views, whatever, we need to annotate with Android entry point to make it injectable. And it has a cascading effect, so if you do it on a fragment, do it on the activity. Or if you make a Hilt view model, you need to do it on the activity or fragment, and so on. Then view models, annotate with Hilt view model. View models that extend the base view model, of course. And then from there you add a normal inject constructor with whatever dependencies you need. And to inject it into the activity, you can use by view models, a nice Kotlin thing, and no factory anymore. Cool, so it provides a qualifier. Don't know if I'm missing anything. Hilt view model, constructors. Injecting a repository into a custom view. That hurts me a bit. Yes, assisted injection. Thing on that, I think they said there's no support for Hilt view models, right? What is this song, man? Assisted. Was that on the main documentation? Yeah, assisted injection. I guess it is useful to know. So you annotate the constructor with assisted inject, and you have assisted parameters that you will provide manually yourself. Then you have an assisted factory, which returns that thing, and then you pass on the thing. And then when you need to use it, you will inject a factory itself. And you use the factory and you pass in your custom object. That is pretty useful, I think. I've not used it personally yet. But again, I think there's a ticket on the Dagger GitHub for adding assisted support to Hilt view models, which they say is not high priority. So you can't use it in view models, but say if our repo for some reason, now let's add it here. So the fancy class, you could have the repo instance, which is provided by Dagger, but then you could have like a string, which you did not want to provide with Dagger. So at the moment, this should fail. Or maybe I'm not. Now let me just inject the fancy class into here so that it's actually used. Save state handle, yes. Yes, I need to mention that as well. Okay, yes, so the string fails because it's not provided anywhere. But now I can change this. Assisted inject constructor and assisted. Then you'd have to have a factory as well. Assisted factory, which returns an instance of the fancy class, which takes in the string. And then when you need to use that, instead you would say factory, is that right? Nice, and then it generates this factory thing for you. Pretty useful, pretty easy. And then when you need to actually get it, you just say fancy class. Create me an instance, and you then pass in the manual string. Very nice, very useful. Very good feature to have. So on that save state handle, Oops, I'm pressing back too many times, sorry. Yes. So you can see that the view model component stuff will have save state handle available to it. So that means on this view model I could also add save state handle and it should work. Yeah, nice. And you don't have to do any other magic to get access to that. Yeah, nice, we get a save state handle object coming in, which is pretty useful. So, I forgot what I was going to do. Oh, I wanted to test. Surely application is also available here. Yeah, good. So is this a bug in their documentation? I guess not really, because viewModel component extends from singleton, so you'll get access to the application anyway. Just feels weird that they didn't put it in there. Okay, yeah, so we do get obviously we get application because you'll need to pass it to Android view model if you do extend that one. So I don't know how long this video is going to turn out to be at this point. So these 4 things I might do as like a more advanced quote-unquote video. Because you don't really need them for like basic usage. We do use multi-bindings a lot at work. Qualifiers a bit. I think scoping though is probably one of the more specialized use cases. Like you don't need to manually scope stuff that often. At least I think not, unless I've been doing stuff wrong. Because normally you'll just add a field in the constructor and then it's called once for the lifecycle of the class and you don't need to scope it really. But the thing is, I want to just test, so if the thing is now if you do this, if you have 2 repos, then of course that's going to be different instances. Yeah. There are 2 separate instances because it's not scoped. So repo. Yes, where is this module thing? So just trying to get rid of all this other random code that I wrote. But now if I were to install this in the view model component, first of all, does that build? No. Oh wait, where? Oh, yeah, because I inject in the freaking custom view. Whoops. Okay, cool. So we will still get 2 different instances, but now if I were to scope this, then we'll get the same one, right? Yes, okay. That point when you question what you know. Like, it should do this, right? Hopefully, maybe. So that's what scoping is, but I don't know in really which cases you would need to scope stuff. I've not really come across it myself. And they do say it adds overhead because it needs to store this instance somewhere so it can give you the same one back each time. But scoping, it is important to know because it's a feature that exists. So there's stuff here, qualifiers, multi-bindings. I wonder what else, if there's anything that I'm not thinking of. Again, as I said at the start about testing, I've not really done it yet. Like testing stuff with Dagger, so I don't know what I would mention. But that again sounds like a separate video on testing. Testing with Hilt. And then there's these all more advanced things like you can create your own components if you really want to. You can create your own entry points. Wait, where was I? Extensions, what is this? Yeah, like this stuff I'm not even gonna go through at all because I don't know what's going on. Components and their life cycles, and this is also good, I think, to include as a diagram somewhere. Wish I could scroll to the right, but just mentioning when the component is created, so when you have access to those bindings. Like the fragment one. When on attach is called, only then are the fields set in the fragment. So if you try to call it too early, it's going to crash on null pointers. So it's good to be aware of this, and also when it's destroyed. But yeah, I think it's pretty good in this one as well. What you have access to when, in which of the components, pretty useful. Yeah, scoping. Scoping a binding has a cost on both the generated code size and its runtime performance, so use it sparingly. The general rule for determining if a binding should be scoped is to only scope the binding if it's required for the correctness of the code. If you think it should be scoped for performance reasons, first verify that performance is an issue. And consider using reusable. I've never used reusable annotation. Indicates that the object returned... Yes, you can't really read that. The object returned by a binding may be reused. You want to limit the number of provisions of a type, but there's no specific lifetime. Yes. Maybe people misunderstand what scoping is for. Scoping things and stuff. Roboelectric testing. Hilt Android test. Okay, whatever. So custom components, I guess it's you might need to create one yourself. Like the one use case I thought of is for like a user session. Because on our app it's a banking app, so session management is important, so you could have a component that lasts the lifetime of a session. Because when you log out, the app is not destroyed yet. The app is still open and in memory, so you can't rely on singleton or something at that point. So you could have a custom one for a session component that gets destroyed when they sign out. I have not done it yet, but I mean, I thought that's one use case I thought of. But it's good that they have all these extension points that you can use. And it's actually not that much that you have to do, either. Like, obviously they have a lot of text explaining, and so you can understand what's going on, but the code itself is pretty easy. Define component, parent is a singleton, and then you have your component, and you need a builder for it, and then you will just instantiate that component at the start of each session. But then it's like, what would you need to scope? What would you use that component for, and is it necessary? Blah, blah, blah. Multi-bindings. Saw a thing on subcomponents here. Do you even need them anymore? Right at the bottom. Oh, it explains why it was done that way. Yeah, I don't really care about your reasoning. I guess subcomponents aren't really necessary anymore, maybe? Yes, there's a lot of stuff. Ooh, another one also quite nice, actually. Maybe I should add that to the list. Optional injection, so you can optionally inject stuff. Oh, I didn't know there was a separate annotation. Wait, that's all? Oh, okay. So Hilt fragments need to be on Hilt activities, and it may be an issue during migration. Or if you have a fragment that's used in a non-Hilt context. Okay. So you want to migrate a fragment. So you can add optional inject. It will only try to inject if the parent is using Hilt. Okay, so this is mainly for migration, I guess. Okay, cool. Thanks for stopping by. Appreciate it. Enjoy and have a good Monday. Hopefully it all goes well. I'm gonna stop soon as well and get some dinner. Okay, optional injection. I don't think I'll mention this use case, but it is good to know. The one I was thinking of, where would it be mentioned? I don't know, but where you can have... Let me just try this. So string... Is that gonna work? Okay, good. String is not provided, so if I make it nullable... Whoops. If I press the right buttons, does it work? No. I thought you could do that. Am I confused? Is that how it works? What? I could have sworn this is something you can do. Okay, there you go. Yeah, okay, cool. So that is how you do it. That's a bit interesting, but if you want to mark a binding as optional, you can do it like that. But then you have to... Let me just remove all these other files. Then you have to inject an optional of that type. But I think, if I'm not mistaken, you could also have a nullable type. String. Like that. I think you could do that. Yeah, there you go. Okay, so if I print out what was injected, I should get a null. Yes, awesome. It's a bit strange that it's optional and nullable are kind of different. I guess optional is like the binding is not anywhere at all. Like maybe you're not using a module or a Gradle module that defines it. Anyway, so if I were to now change this to like hello, then we'll print out hello, yes. And now the cool part is that if you make it non-null, it's going to fail. Yeah. Because it tells you the string is not nullable. My phone is going crazy, sorry. It tells you it's not nullable, but it is being provided by a nullable provides method. That's pretty useful. So then you would have to just, again, nullable, and you can run it. And I would assume that in Java, you would just use nullable annotation instead. Okay, so let me just write that down. Again, those might go into a separate, more quote-unquote advanced video. Because I really wanted to focus on the absolute basics. Like if you've never used Dagger or Hilt before, how do you get started? So I think these other sections will be pretty good and enough for a video. Because I want to explain like literally what each annotation does. What each line of code does for Hilt. I think I'm pretty much done for today though. I've made good progress with this. I have a good idea of what the video is going to turn into. So the next part would probably be just setting up a basic, like kind of blank project. Well, not really blank, but a project that just has a few existing dependencies, like a repository or a service or a cache or some classes that I can inject into activities and view models. And then I will navigate around that project and show how to inject various things. Yeah, so I think that's all for today, for Sunday. Cool, yes. Cheerio, thanks for joining.